Thanks for joining myself and Lloyd Vehicle Consulting on the earlier Rover video. Now we're going to be looking at the 90s Rovers and moving forward. And without hesitation, hello, Joseph. How are you?
Good afternoon, sir. I'm very well, thank you.
Good. Should we get into part two?
Yes, of course. This is probably a new thing for your channel because these slightly
Completely.
shambolic sound recordings, that parts 1 to 3, are
Yeah,
actually on my channel. And we started doing these during lockdown number 1,
we did.
and well, they weren't particularly popular, but we just got to do them again because they're fun and we enjoy them.
Yeah, we do. We get to chat and it keeps your mental awareness and it keeps you all buzzing and all happy because let's face it, you're locked down for quite a bit, aren't you?
Yeah. I mean, we're gonna be locked down. I think middle of February at least, I should think.
Yeah,
That's at least a month away. So
exactly.
it's good to just kind of connect with people when we can't do that in person.
Yeah,
And you know,
adds to well-being, doesn't it? And makes it a nice, enjoyable thing for people to look at on a Saturday afternoon or whenever.
or whenever it gets
Well, exactly.
put up. But yeah, it's just a good thing to do. It gives it a bit of variety from just me sitting in the car and talking to the windscreen, which is what normally happens.
And me just wandering around on the forecourt talking about our cars.
I know, yeah, it's great, isn't it?
It
Although
is,
you
yeah.
you did get to booze today, didn't you? Got to the supermarket today.
Yeah, but that's had three thumbs downs, and I'm assuming it's because I'm out with my mother on essential things. Therefore, people are probably questioning, but people aren't aware that my mother lives next door and is in the same bubble.
Yeah, she definitely is. You've been in that bubble for
Yeah.
how long? Like a
Uh,
year?
yes. Yeah, it will be coming up to a year, won't it?
I know it's crazy, isn't it, to think about that?
It is. Yeah.
But first of all, we did our part 3.
Yeah.
We talked about MGs and Triumphs and Rovers from the 1980s. Let's now go forward to the 1990s and an area which I am very, very familiar, as you know.
Yeah.
Um, I'm just trying to think, how many 1990s Rovers have I had? I think it's 4.
Well, I've driven one of them,
You have. You drove it. It was
600.
it was a 1998 Rover 620 GSI automatic. As
I
far
like
as I
that car.
know, because of this funny lockdown MOT extension of last year, that
Mm.
car's still got an MOT. It's still got one. I think it's valid until the 20th of January. So if it's been scrapped, I have no idea. I bought it for
I hope it hasn't. That was a
£220.
good car.
Well, Mr. Coleman's one is a lot better. Mr. Coleman Rubbish Mechanic has a 95 620 SLI manual, and that's been how do I put this? Gingered up slightly from the standard 620. It's had a
There's a
couple of
surprise.
light modifications, and if you want to go fast, it will accelerate like a scolded cat. And this is the thing about the 600s is that
Yeah.
you know there were some fast versions of them. The
Yeah.
623 GSI was the fastest. That was a 2.3 liter engine out of the Honda Accord with, I think it was about 155 horsepower, something like that. And
Yeah.
if you got a manual one of those, that was quite quick. But the fastest of all was the um, 620 Ti, which
Yeah.
was
Oh, I remember that.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
200 horsepower T series turbo engine from the Rover Tomcat Turbo Coupe. Each through front tires, different suspension,
Yeah.
slightly different steering. Yeah, Mr. Coleman, of course, had one of those himself. So if you want to really surprise people, get yourself a 620 Ti or a 620 with a Honda engine, 2 liter, the 130 horsepower one or something, and just
Yeah.
watch people be bemused when you pull away from the lights well before them. But then you've got to watch your front tire bill because they love to eat front tires, Rovers.
I was going to
I
say there
don't,
was a Volvo like that. That was a sleeper, and was it? I'm not very good on the older Volvos, but it
there
was
are
like
a
a K
few.
plate, 440. Is that even a number?
Yeah, it's a 440 turbo.
It could have been that. I
Yeah,
remember
well,
whatever it
yeah.
was like a bullet, and you completely underestimated it.
Yeah, it's a 440 turbo, 460
Yeah.
turbo,
Yeah.
480 turbo was the coupe one. The 360 GLT was the faster one of the older smaller Volvos. That was
Yeah.
2 liter engine in that. as far as the Rovers is concerned, these days 600s are quite rare, but they're not very
Yeah.
valuable. Mine cost me about £320. Um, and it went faster. It was automatic. Automatic ones are a lot slower than the manual
I
ones.
enjoyed that. I really did enjoy driving that car.
You did, didn't you? I quite liked it, but lots of things were broken on it. Mr. Coleman's one is a lot better. Things actually
Right.
work in it, like the driver's window is really common fault on the 600. That's fine. We haven't got the roof lining sagging in it, things like that. It's a lovely
Yeah.
example one he has, and he uses it every day, and it's been good to me. I think he just changed the brakes on that at some point. So obviously, you want
It
to
does
see.
make sense him going down the Rover line, though, doesn't it, with his father and that kind of thing?
Yeah, his father's got a Rover. I won't say which one it is, but his
No.
father's got one.
Yeah.
Um,
That's what I
and
mean. They've always had Rovers in their families, so it makes sense. It's quite strange. It's interested me the fact that James has moved from Alpha to Rover. Well, I mean, he's not
he's got
moved, but he's done both.
yeah he likes both. It's a bit like
Extended
me.
his fleet, shall we say?
It's a bit like me, isn't it? I mean, obviously at some point
Yeah.
we'll do another one of these robotic sound recordings. We'll talk about Alfa Romeo, which I
Yeah.
think people will enjoy because you've got one of those, haven't you?
We do. My brother's car is sat in the garage, a 145 Cloverleaf.
Yeah. Those are the most common type of 145 now. It's bizarre, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it's like the Orions, though, isn't it? The ones that have survived aren't the 1.4s; they're the 1.6s.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's the same with the Rovers.
That's right. Yes.
The Tomcats have survived. I mean, you don't see many coupes around,
No.
granted, and you don't see many 800s in that either. But the ones that have survived are the bigger engined ones, bit like the
Yeah.
SD1s.
It tends to be with an R8, which is
Mm,
the oldest Rover I've had, which is a 1991 216 SLI automatic that was
mm,
previously a company car with Classics World that was driven by Joe Miller. That one has the Honda D series engine in it. Obviously, you're very familiar with the Honda D series engine,
I was
aren't you,
going to
Mr.
say there may well be one of those sat in the Civic outside.
Yeah, it's a 1.4 D series in that one. This is the
Yeah,
1.6 of
yeah.
a single overhead cam, which is 110 horsepower. The
As
codes
we
are
know, a
decent.
bulletproof engine as well.
Yeah, there are only a couple of problems with a Honda engine of that type, which is that they do suffer from the cam cover gasket leaking. That's a really common problem on them, and also you've got to change the timing belt on them.
Yeah,
There's a timing belt, you've got to change it. Bizarrely, with the Rover R8s, the K series engine that was the one developed for that car, it rotates the opposite direction from the D series Honda engine. So when you look at a D series engine in I say a Row 600, no, not in the R8 or even in the later on the HHRs, which is the later 400s were called VHHR and
yeah,
other names. Um, for a similar type of car as well later. But you look at a D series engine, one of those opposed to a K series, the engine's the wrong way round. It's
yeah,
completely the other way round. So the engineering to go into the Rover 200 or was a 400 BR8 family, this enormous family of them back in the day, was ridiculous
mm,
because 1.4s have a K series, 1.6 started off with the Honda D series, and
yeah,
then later on they also had the K series after 95 when the standard R8s, the 200, 400 hatchback and saloon were discontinued, and then they went on to um, mildly change the coupe, cabriolet, and tourer, and they had a different dashboard, and then they got rid of the Honda engines because by 1995, BMW had bought Rover,
yeah,
and obviously every time they used Honda components in the car and design, they had to pay a royalty to them.
yeah.
I didn't
No, it
really
makes
want to do
sense.
that, so they expanded the K series engines in them. Um, K series engine, of course, not like the Honda D series. They have a few
No,
more problems. They have cam cover gasket leaks. They
yeah.
also have a time belt that needs to be changed. But where do we start with the cylinder head gasket thing?
I
Now,
was going to say cooling was a big challenge with those, wasn't it?
it was, yeah, and I think one of your live streams recently mentioned about the MGF and its
Yeah,
unique issues to do with cooling, and again, a K series engine car.
yeah,
Um, Funnily enough, the very early K series engined um, Rover 200s, which is the R8 shape, they
Yeah.
tend to be more reliable than the later ones, and that's because they started to make the K series engines more cheaply and increase them in size beyond what they were intended to be. The maximum intended size for a K series at the start was 1.4 liters, and eventually they stretched it to 1.8. And in the
Right.
process, they also did various changes in like the dowel pins which hold the engine together were made of plastic in later ones, and that tended to be more responsible for head gasket failure than
I was going to say, my word, that's an interesting design,
yeah,
isn't it?
and that caused problems. Should we
Yeah.
say? There are specialists who will do a head gasket conversion for you
Yeah.
using a good quality set like a Victor Rhine set, and that tends to cure the problems. You get someone who knows what they're doing. They put that Victor Rhine's gasket set on the car, and they maybe skim the head, maybe machine it a bit, and put it
Yeah.
back together correctly. Then you can get not just more reliability, you can get more power. Mr.
Yeah.
Coleman did a conversion like that on a Rover 45 that he owned a while ago, and he got 20 more horsepower just by doing doing the job
Skimming the
properly,
head. Yeah.
skimming the head, fitting a really good quality head gasket set, and just putting it back together properly.
Yeah.
Spark plugs, camber, water pump, everything properly. He got 20 more horsepower for doing it. So they
Yeah.
actually are quite a good engine. If you know that yours has been done properly, then you shouldn't have any more concerns. If you just change the camber, water pump at various intervals, keep an eye on the coolant level, you'd be okay. But obviously, the cars don't have a lot of value. Even the standard RX, like the one I had, the 91, that
Yeah.
car cost me less than £500.
Were they ever called back in to MG Rover or anything to fix those kind of things? I mean, I remember it was an L Reg Orion that my mother had, and it was a
Yeah.
16 valve, and it
Yeah,
got
that
called
one, yeah.
back into Ford to change it because it had only pretty much operate on 8 valves. And they paid, I think it was something like 55% of that amount to rebuild the engine.
I think there would have been a lot of warranty claims
Yeah.
for the K series. And the one I had first, that had a K series, the long term road I had was a 2004 Rover 45 1.4, and that had already had a head gasket at 5 years old. It had
Yeah.
already had one. So it's a long going sort of issue. I mean, if you know
Yeah.
either if you know the head gasket is original and it's been well maintained, it might well be okay. If it's one that's definitely been done and been done properly, you're okay. The problem
Were they
is
alley
that
blocks then?
sorry,
Were they alley blocks as in
I
aluminium?
believe so.
Yeah.
I believe
Well, the
there are
Golfs had a similar problem as well then with aluminium blocks as well.
yeah, that's totally sometimes happens when you have a
Yeah.
cast iron.
Well, they warp, don't they?
They do, yeah. And putting plastic dowel pins doesn't really help.
No. So that's what I mean. I can't think of anything worse, to be honest. Well, it
Yeah.
saves money, I expect.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
The reason why MG Rover sort of failed and Rover Group and whatever, we could be here all day talking about that.
Yeah.
That's the rot set in years ago, and they company staff and investment ideas not properly sort of done, but they made some really good cars. A nice 400
Yeah.
Tourer is beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Richardson often viewers driving his Tomcat, which I've driven. That's a really nice car. T series engine in that 2 litre.
Mm.
You could also get a Peugeot Citroen engine in that 1.8 powered by the forbidden fuel. Won't go into that too much on this.
I know where this is going.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to be careful about that. The whole range of engines in those,
Yeah.
loads and loads and loads of them, and a very adaptable platform of car.
Yeah.
Later, Rover 200, the R3 shape, which came on in '95, was essentially the R8 shape, but with a Maestro rear end in it,
Yeah.
and the front sort of subframe and everything, even up to the bulkhead underneath, was still an R8. Just the body was different on them. And I've tested one of those on my channel. I tested a 25. I used to have a 25 actually, and an R3. The main problem
Well,
I have with
weirdly,
those,
you see, It's strange with Rovers, isn't it? When you look on the road, what is the most common Rover that you will see down your area?
Be a 25, probably a
It's a
25.
75 up here.
Yeah, you see 75s. I mean, gosh, they're really nice cars to drive. They're beautiful cars. They're really luxurious. They feel
They
lovely to
looked the
drive.
part when they were released, though, didn't they? And they did I mean, for example, they even made a custom number plate, didn't they, just to fit that recess?
Yeah, you had to get you could either have a standard one or a custom. It looks
Yeah,
nice with a custom. They're a
it
bit more
does. Yeah,
expensive, but they look better.
yeah.
Obviously, MGZT came a bit later, but
Mm,
75 is a lovely car to drive. Even um, the base engine, it's a 120 horsepower 1.8K series.
yeah.
The turbo is better. That's a 150 or a 160 in a ZT.
Mm.
Then the 2.5 litre KV6, which, gosh, talk about those another time, I think. Um,
I was going
they
to say
have
we'll start moving on to X Power next, won't we?
they have a few problems, those KV6s, but when they're working, they're great. Yeah, there's the 75 and ZT towards the end even got a rear wheel drive conversion for a Mustang 4.6 litre V8.
Crazy.
I know, madness, absolute
Mm,
madness in that.
yeah,
Um, MG Rover had some great engineers, and some of them I think are still working on MGs today.
yeah,
Obviously the parent company is totally different, but a
yes,
lot of the same engineers worked on with MGZR went to work on an MG3.
yeah,
So they have some great engineers. It just for some reason it never came together for them. They made great cars. The Rover R8 was a really good car. Um, I'm not so keen on the R3s and 25s. That's just not quite me. I find it a bit uncomfortable. They are very amazing driver. The steering and handling of one of those is fantastic,
yeah.
as it is on MGZR.
I'm going to have
Um,
to drive some more Rovers, aren't I?
yeah, you will have to. I mean, you have to drive mine at some point. Obviously, at the
Yeah.
moment we can't because
No.
um, you is it 300 miles or something to Silverdale from Eastleigh or something?
Yeah, something like that. 261 to London, so I'm just trying to think. Yeah, it's got to be over 300 miles because when I met you in Farnborough, that was close to 300 miles.
Yeah, I mean that's Farnborough's an hour or so from here, but
Yeah, exactly.
obviously for you that's sort of way further. And
Oh
I know
yeah,
one day you did drive all the way down from Silverdale to here. It was
yeah,
set to Racco, I think it was, and
yeah.
all the way down. And it's quite a long
That's
way.
when we could move around, wasn't it?
I
That
know
was Goodwood.
it's so crazy thinking about this stuff, and possibly one of the reasons why I've not been seeing so many of these MGs and Rovers from the 90s. I mean, when I went to the um, BMC and Leyland show in
Mm,
Gaydon in September, the number of 800, 600, 200,
yeah,
45s or whatever there was crazy.
yeah.
I had the only 45 V6, but then they're really rare, so it's not a surprise. But
But it's
um,
nice that you had one of those cars that
I
it's
know,
like when we take Dorothy somewhere. The 230 CE, you just don't see. You don't see
no,
the C124s. The coupes are
no,
so rare. And that's what interests me about. I mean, Hubnut held his social up at the Lakeland car
that's
place
right.
in, where was it? It's just outside
Lakeland Motor
Grange.
Museum, isn't it?
Yeah, Lakeland Motor Museum. And whenever you go up there, before lockdown, obviously,
Of course.
there'd be loads of cars just that would just appear on a Sunday. So like a Sunday meet type thing. And the vehicles that you would see is the variety, because you'd have things like you'd have the odd TVR, then you'd have a load of Rovers, and then you'd have that kind of thing. And the interesting thing about that place is there seems to be quite a few Rovers around here, and they
Yeah.
all seem to levitate towards the motor museum because they know that they'll find a like-minded enthusiast or lover of the cars to chat to.
Yeah, it's funny because as I'm sure you're very much aware.
Mm,
Ian Seabrook from Hubnut had a 45 V6
yeah,
for quite a while. I can't even remember why
he's had a few Rovers, hasn't he?
yeah, he's had a few. I don't even remember why he sold it.
No.
Unfortunately, what's happened with that happened with loads of old Rovers, and mine's not immune to this. And actually, I had it rust treated before I sort of took acceptance of it.
Yeah.
His cars had rust issues. It's with a different owner now. It's passed through several hands,
Yeah.
and it's been broken for spares, which is really
Sad,
sad.
isn't it? Yeah.
Um,
Well, I'm just glad that yours was saved,
yeah,
because I
yeah.
mean, we were discussing that it could have been far, far worse,
It could have
especially.
been the
Yeah.
two head gaskets in the KV6. It's not a common problem with them particularly, but it
No.
has been known to happen because I've got a friend who's got.
Especially with your dodgy thermostat that seems to just want to either empty or block or do something to try and make the car overheat.
If a K
But
series is notorious for head gasket failure,
yeah,
the KV6 is notorious for the inlet manifold
yeah,
going wrong, and mine been replaced, and the thermostat housing,
exactly.
which mine in spectacular fashion exploded all over River Forecourt when we were picking up our Sanyong,
Yeah,
and yeah, they made the car completely undrivable.
yes,
Obviously, it's been fixed now, but this is the issue with some of these older, bigger engine Rovers.
yeah,
800 is the same. That a lot of garages just won't work on them. They'll work on a K
no,
series one because that's the most common type of engine you'd find in a Rover now. And of course, Honda D series, they've
yeah,
kept making Honda D series engines. I think about till the sort of early 2000s. So there's plenty of them around, and they're
yes,
a good engine. K series, they tend to be actually once you got a good head gasket in there and the camber water pump have been done, that it tends to be okay. They're not too bad to work on.
no,
But the KV6, these days it's like a
yeah,
specialist engine that it's difficult to work on. And if you've got a good KV6, they sound great, nice, silky smooth performance,
yeah.
not the best economy, but you don't buy a KV6 for
I
economy.
was going to say it's like the Mercedes. You didn't really
Yeah,
buy that for
exactly.
economy. It does 30 to the gallon, whether you're doing 100 or 30. But
Yeah,
that's what you expect from these cars. But like you say, they're smooth. I mean,
yeah.
I think it was a really interesting thing for Rover to choose to do a 2-liter V6. It seems, considering we've got a 2.3 4-cylinder, what do you think the thinking was behind that? Because I've always
Yeah.
wondered this.
A lot of cars in the 1990s had 2-liter V6s. There was a Suzuki 2-liter V6, which was going to the Vitara. There was a Mazda 2-liter V6 that went into the ZDOS 6 and the 323F. There's also 1.8 V6 for Mazda. Yeah,
That's an interesting one.
lots of
Is that
cars
that's
have
got to
been.
be the smallest engine, and is it with a
Yeah,
V6?
1.8 V6 in the Mazda
Yeah.
MX-3. It was the MX-3. That was the smallest V6 I've ever made.
Was
Um,
it to offer refinement then? I mean, is that the
yeah,
idea behind a V6 with a smaller block?
I would have thought so. Yeah,
Yeah.
because the engine's balanced in a different way from a four-cylinder. I mean, a
Yeah.
KV6
Oh yeah.
paired with a K series, they don't. The power output's not that different. So
No.
1.8 K series is about 120 horsepower
Yeah.
unmodified. Obviously, if you do what Mr. Coleman does, you get a bit more if you
Yeah.
put the engine back together properly. But a
Yeah.
KV6 is only 102 liters, only 150 horsepower. It's not that different power output.
I was going to say when I had the 2.5 V6 Galant,
Yeah,
that I think that was about 170 brake, which isn't particularly a lot for a 2.5, is it? But because of it, it was just a smooth engine experience.
the end basically engines sound great. I mean, I drove a 3 liter Peugeot 406 V6 on the channel last year, and
Yeah.
that was a
Nice
fantastic.
car.
I
Very
mean,
nice
again,
car.
it wasn't most economical, but it's a manual V6 3
Yeah.
liter.
Oh, amazing. Can't think
Absolutely
of anything better.
fantastic.
Yeah.
With a chassis like that in the 406,
Yeah.
it was brilliant. The only thing I didn't like so much was the variable assistance power steering in it, and it's the same with a lot of cars. The steering, when you go below 40 miles an hour, the steering is just too light. It's just way too light. If you speed
Yeah.
up, it's better. The
Yeah.
car just wants to go really, really fast. That's a bit of a problem when you're just kind of driving around town and stuff.
Yeah.
Of course, you're not going to get amazing economy,
No.
but yeah, it was a brilliant experience. I've had some really good experiences of 2020, even if the lockdowns and stuff, and
Yeah.
not being able to see people and all that kind of stuff wasn't great. I still drove
Well,
some
that's it.
fantastic
We've had
cars.
to evolve things, but you did get to see some fantastic cars,
I did,
and you
yeah.
could still do it under the correct rules. So that
Yeah,
was
that's right.
something. Whereas with us, we were the complete opposite because we get everything from press. We had to jump through so many hoops,
I
but
know.
it made sense because they have to be really responsible for their delivery drivers.
Yeah, I mean, at some point I'll have to talk about, the more modern MGs from sort of 2011 onwards, because
Yeah,
we're very familiar with those. I think the only one
we are.
you've not driven is the MG6, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you've done every single other one that I've done, apart from the MG6. And
But we are
so,
both very keen to drive the new one, aren't we? With the 1 liter 6-speed manual.
yeah, I mean, I've been going on about MG putting a 6-speed manual gearbox into
Well, we
the,
both have, haven't we? I mean, we've
yeah,
wanted an MG3 with a 1 liter turbo, haven't we?
yeah, ages, like
Yeah,
forever. And obviously the ZS, I was told ages ago, I think maybe like 2 years ago, that they were going to
yeah,
put a manual gearbox into the 1 liter ZS. Obviously, the
yeah.
auto's been out since about 2018. It's been out a few years now,
I was
but
going to say it's a while now.
I've kept saying that they should put a manual in it, and they are doing. The only
Yeah,
problem is, the cars actually are able to order now, but obviously you get them from the energy press office, they can't deliver you one. And I
no,
normally go down to Summit Garage in Dudley and get
you can't do
and
that either.
well, I can't at the moment. No, not really, because
Yeah,
it's not really essential travel. It's not
no,
really. Yes, I'm afraid not. I mean, be nice to
it
go
would,
and
wouldn't
do
it?
that, and
Yeah,
possibly as well drive that MG Maestro that I think I talked about at the beginning of part 3.
yeah,
Right at the beginning, I'd nice to drive that as well, and I've got another Maestro down there that they're repairing as well, like a Maestro van
yeah.
that used to be their like fleet parts van. So I'll be driving that too. So all this stuff to look forward to.
I know.
And loads and loads of people have said, "Come and drive my Rover. Come and drive," that sort of stuff. It's like, well, I'd
I
love
know.
to. It'd be great, but at the moment I can't. Even with
No.
the previous tier-based system, it was still a little bit difficult to go to certain areas,
Yeah.
like tier 3 or whatever. Tier 2 was okay. Tier 1 was brilliant.
Yeah.
But we're just hoping that all this stuff, does come to an end really soon.
Well,
And
we do have a
we
car show lined up, don't we? If everything goes to plan.
I know we've got yeah, we have our own little sort of social event, because
Yeah.
that was something that we were planning in 2020, and it never happened because the
No.
restrictions never lifted enough to have more than 30. I think it was 6 people together or something, and
Yeah.
30 people for a big event like a wedding or something, and we never quite got to that stage. And we knew that if we were going to have one, we'd not be able to say exactly who was turning up, and that
No.
was a bit of a problem. So
Well, this is what opened my
yeah,
eyes when I went to Salon Privé because I could see that the lengths they went to keep this, they limited the list so
yeah,
tightly for the
had
press
to.
day, and the gapping and the way that everybody was spaced out and the way that even food was delivered and things like that. You got a picnic box and the amount of money that must have gone into that, but it was all to keep the press safe and keep all the manufacturers safe. Even Bentley had their own track and trace system just before you walked up to see their 3 cars on top of Salon Privé. So it showed you that everybody was taking this seriously. But it's been very important as we've seen this. I mean, we're slowly seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, aren't we?
Absolutely. And the shows I went to last year, Beale Autumn Rally,
Yeah,
Bicester Heritage,
yeah.
and the BMC Leyland show, all of them, you had to read quite a a big sort of list of rules just to keep it going. And it was good though. To be able to actually go to any shows last year was a massive privilege.
We managed two, and literally one was before anything kicked off, which was obviously
That's
where we
right.
met
Yeah.
you.
Autosport. Yeah.
Autosport. Yeah. I mean, that was a fantastic show, wasn't it? And we couldn't see what was going to happen, could we, in
No.
March? Because I'd have filmed every mortal thing at that show. I mean, I filmed a lot as it was, and we had a lot of fun, didn't we, wandering around?
Yeah, we did. We did live videos. I did 2
Yeah.
quite long ones of my own.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would have made the videos a bit shorter had I actually
Yeah.
known what was going to happen. Um,
Exactly.
but yeah, yes, possibly we should do another one of these about Alfa Romeo.
I was going to say we're probably going to touch on Rovers again because, as per usual, we've deviated off like normal.
That's what
Tangents
happens.
are our
There's too
key.
much serendipity, sir. That's what
There is.
like
Yeah.
goes on.
Yeah.
For more just serendipitous and random stuff.
because we're going to be, if these fly like we hope they're going to, we're going to be doing far more of these, aren't we? Especially if lockdown continues, because we don't actually know when it's going to end. And if
no
you
one knows at
enjoyed
the
Rover
moment.
talk, Ford talk, Alpha talk, Mercedes talk, BMW talk, who knows what else? I mean,
exactly.
we've got so much lined up, haven't we?
Yeah, we got loads of things we can talk about. That's not a problem.
No, it's not. So thank you for joining. Please do subscribe to Lloyd Vehicle Consulting and subscribe to Planet Auto as well. And like the video, share it. If you know anyone else who enjoys this kind of thing, please share it and invite them along. Joseph also does lives, and as do we. So we'll leave it there, Joseph, eh?
Okay, that's fine, sir.
Thank you for joining us, and goodbye.